Hi, I'm Louise, and today I'm going to be talking about Marty Supreme. What an interesting film. I will admit I'm not a huge watcher of the Safdie brothers. I watched Uncut Gems, and that's the only film of theirs I've seen, and it stressed me out so bad. I haven't seen any of their other movies. I recognize it was really well made and really well done. I was also just watching it in the height of COVID because I missed it when it came out initially. And then I'd heard so many great things about it. I was like, I have to see it. And I watched it, and I just did not have a good time. I wonder if I would enjoy it more now, but I just have not seen any of their other films because I had such a hard time with Uncut Gems. And it's not to say it wasn't good. I recognize that it was really well crafted, and Adam Sandler was really incredible in it. But I just was not in the mood for that or something, and I just had a really bad time. So I haven't seen anything else of their work because that was my introduction. I didn't love it. So I haven't seen any of the other stuff. Granted, this is only one of the brothers, to be fair, but I was a little apprehensive going into this just because I was like, I really didn't like Uncut Gems. But I will say I did like Marty Supreme more. I do think, though, Uncut Gems is a better movie than Marty Supreme, but I enjoyed watching Marty Supreme more. And honestly, I think that's because I really enjoyed the ping pong stuff, which I'll get into more later in specifics, but there was none of that kind of funness for me in Uncut Gems. Anyway, the reason I'm comparing them to, not just because of the directors, or at least it shares a director, they're just kind of similar. I mean, they're in different time periods, obviously, but they're sort of discussing the same thing. I think they'd be great companion films if you can handle that level of stress. But I feel like they're in conversation with each other. So my comparing them doesn't feel that crazy to me. If that makes sense. And to get into the actual story, the story of Marty Supreme is about a young man in the 1950s who wants to become the greatest table tennis star, but is struggling to find the funds to make the dreams happen. So that's our basis here. And there's essentially two modes in this film. There's the ping pong segments, which I loved. They're engaging. I'm not really a sports person per se, but I had fun watching them do the table tennis because of the way it was shot and edited, and also the music was really fun. And then there's Marty struggling to get money to do the ping pong. And granted, the story is more about the second part and less about the ping pong, but I just really like the ping pong parts. Those sections, the ones where Marty's trying to get the funds to do what he wants to do, can be very intense and kind of ridiculous, but Marty is ridiculous, so it feels natural, like not natural. I mean, the stuff that happens is absolutely crazy. It feels like that's something that could definitely happen to him. Like, it's not like, what the heck? That's no way. That's so crazy in the way that, like, it pulls you out of the film, if that makes sense. It fits the tone of the film, even though it is also insane what's going on. Because it just sort of builds on itself, and it's getting more and more ridiculous as the film goes on. So, those scenes were intense for me to watch as someone who already has a lot of anxiety in just my regular life. They were so ridiculous that at least for me, I was like, oh, that could never happen to me because I'm not Marty. Like, I would just not make that choice. So you're just watching this person make crazier and crazier choices as he's getting more desperate to get to. Basically, the story is about him trying to get to a tournament in Japan and trying to raise the money for it. Like, the beginning, he's doing a tournament, I think in London, and then he comes back to New York and things sort of fall apart, and he's trying to find the funds to get to Japan to the next tournament so that he can compete against what is the current world champion, and he wants to win. You know, it is more or less a traditional sports movie in that sense, but it's not really a sports movie in that, like, most of the time he's actually not playing ping pong. Because I feel like sports movies, I guess they also deal with drama, but I feel like a lot of the time it's like more to do with them practicing and getting better at the ping pong or, whatever sport it is. And then, of course, there's always external pressures of some kind. But this feels like it's kind of flipped. There's less time playing the sport and more time in the drama, which I think works. I think a huge reason why this works is because Timothée Chalamet is absolutely incredible. Like, I know this doesn't surprise anyone that he's good because he's consistently good in everything, but also he's really good in this one. I still think my favorite role of his is in Dune Part 2, but that kind of film doesn't get you acting noms, unfortunately. But this is still really great. It is so different from Dune. He's playing, Timothée Chalamet is a little bit older than me, maybe like by 6 months, but he's playing a guy in his early 20s, and he does it very convincingly. He has a lot of young energy, if that makes sense. So he's like, even though he's almost 30, I think he's turning 30 this month, he's making all these choices and saying these things that only young people would say. And I think part of that is due to the script being written very well, but also Timothée Chalamet does a great job of performing as a young person because, there's only so much your script can do, right? So he does a really great job. And also, apparently he played a ton of ping pong before this movie. I was like, I don't really watch ping pong in my normal life, so I don't know how much of it was like, oh yeah, they CGI'd the ping pong ball in there. But I guess he did a lot of it for real. I don't know how much. Anyway, I'd be curious to hear from people who watch a lot of table tennis and see what they think. But I thought it was really convincing. And I wouldn't be mad if he won Best Actor for this year. I do think it's right now between him and Leonardo DiCaprio for One Battle After Another. I think, they're both really great actors, but I did like One Battle After Another more than this movie. I also really loved his co-lead, Odessa. I don't know how you say her last name. Odessa A'zion. She was really great. She plays Rachel Misler, like his childhood best friend. And she really holds her own in this sort of crazy movie where Timothée Chalamet is also matching the craziness. She's basically the heart of the film to me. Because he's so, I don't know, hard to empathize with for a lot of it. You do get to get in his head a little bit more as the movie goes on, but a lot of it I'm just like so baffled by the choices he's making. I'm like, what the heck? But I love how involved she is in the story. So she gets pregnant pretty early on, and she's like really pregnant for most of the movie. And I feel like a lot of stories would just be like, oh, that's like a side thing, because it becomes relevant as the film goes on. I could see it being like where they just put her on the sidelines because she is pregnant, but I'm really glad they didn't do that. A, because she adds an interesting groundedness to the story, but also because she really just adds a lot of softness to Marty that I don't think would have been there if she hadn't been there. She also makes some pretty crazy choices too. They're a good match for each other that way. But yeah, I'm really glad that she was a big part of the film. She really does a great job. And especially because Timothée Chalamet, A, is really good, and B, is doing this like crazy performance. But she holds her own, feels natural there, and does such a wonderful job. I really am impressed by her. I also really enjoyed Gwyneth Paltrow's performance as Kay Stone. She's playing this, I think she's mostly retired actress, and she's really wealthy. Anyway, it's fun to see her be just baffled by Marty, and she just, I don't know, their chemistry is really fun. I feel like it's funny that this is now the second movie I've seen where Timothée Chalamet has a romantic relationship with an older woman. I don't know what it is about him that keeps happening to him, but he did great in both films. So I don't think I quite understand what she sees in him exactly. Maybe she's just kind of bored with her husband or something. I don't know, but they're fun together, and she's fun to watch. Kevin O'Leary was great as Milton Rockwell, Kay's husband. He is a very convincing businessman, and I didn't know this until after the fact that he is actually a real life businessman and has a reality show or two. He plays a businessman pretty convincingly. So I really enjoyed his performance quite a bit. I mentioned the music a little bit earlier, but I wanted to talk about it more. I think it might be one of my favorite soundtracks of the year, up there with like Sinners and One Battle After Another. I really loved that they paired this film that takes place in the 1950s with like synth, sort of 80s sounding music. I loved the scenes where they paired that music with the ping pong. Like it it's weird trying to describe it, but it just is so electric and has such a fun energy that I just really loved. And those were all my favorite parts of the movie. So I really, really loved it. But it also carries throughout. It's not just through the ping pong scenes. That's just when I noticed it. But I really enjoyed that a lot. And I can't wait for them to publish it somewhere so I can listen to it again. Hi, this is Editing Louise here. When I filmed this video, a lot of the press hadn't happened, and I kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit just because it's been so unique. I've been watching in the last week or so as I've been putting this video together, different things pop up, and it just seems like the marketing doesn't quite match the movie I saw, and it's been kind of funny watching everybody react to this and being like so baffled by it. I am too, and I've seen this film. Like I don't really understand, other than maybe they're just trying to advertise to people who don't normally go to films like this. That's really the only thing I can think of. And I'm curious to see if that works. It also seems like Timothée Chalamet is kind of spearheading a lot of this. I can't imagine a lot of this being put forward by a marketing executive. It does feel very, I don't know, just unique. And I think that's fun. And I'm curious to see if it will work and if people will even remember this marketing in like a year from now. I mean, because we still talk about Barbie, right? Like that was a big thing, but this is so different. I think my favorite thing is the clip of him on the sphere, and he sounds so nervous. Anyway, it's been a delight to kind of watch this unfold. So we'll see how the film does. And I want to talk about the ending, so I'm going to leave a spoiler warning here. So skip to here if you want to skip spoilers about the ending. I love the ending. I think that it just suits the movie so well. It settles so well both the like actual of what's happening, but also the emotional storyline that's happening. He ends up making it to Japan and does this sort of fake ping pong match with the winner of the London tournament, and he's also from Japan, and they're trying to sell pens because that's what Kevin O'Leary's character is selling and where he made all his money. So he set up this fake tournament for Marty and the current world champion to play against each other. And he tells him he needs to lose the match, right? And so he's like, it's really important that you lose the match. That's all part of the storytelling. And while Marty's at the tournament, he talks to one of the guys that he kind of made super angry at the last tournament, who was in charge of more or less of the tournament. And he tells him that he cannot compete in the tournament in Japan. Like, that's just out of the cards. He will not be allowed to play. And of course, he's devastated by this. So he's like, I don't know what to do. I'm not going to be able to compete, but I really want to win or whatever, you know? And so he ends up playing against the champion, loses, and then he sort of freaks out and is like, you know what? I want to do a for real match. Let's do a for real match. And so he, you know, communicates that to the other player, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. And he's like, because I'm not going to be able to come to the tournament tomorrow. We're not going to be able to play. And it's not going to count for anything because it's not an official match as part of the tournament anyway. And Kevin O'Leary's character is like, no, Don't do that. I'm not going to take you home. You're going to be stuck in Japan if you win this game. And so he plays this game, in the back of his head, he's like, I want to win. I also don't want to win because I may not be able to make it out of Japan. And it's just this fun, like, mix of him playing, but also deciding if he wants to try and win or not. And he does end up winning. And just, it's such a great ending to the film because he still doesn't become the champion, but he does beat the champion. Like, he's not officially the champion, I guess. There's still consequences to him pissing people off as the film goes on, because that's a lot of what the movie is. So he isn't able to become the official champion, but he's still good enough to beat the current champion, even though it's not official. And I just feel like it's such a perfect ending for the movie. He ends up going home with some American soldiers and gets there just in time for his best friend to have just had her baby that is also his baby. And it just ends with him just like looking at this baby and just crying. It made me cry. And I was like sort of taken aback by the movie. I was just like, wow, that was a lot. But I don't know, when he got emotional, I just was like, oh, that's so sweet. And I can picture in my head maybe him trying to live a normal life for the kid, but I don't know. That's what I envision they're implying by that ending. But we'll see. It's definitely a far more hopeful ending than Uncut Gems. So I'll take it. And those are my thoughts on Marty Supreme. I think overall, I really enjoyed a lot of it. I just think it was a little stressful for me. I don't think it's a movie I'm going to be revisiting anytime soon, but I am glad I saw it. I would recommend it if you like the Safdie brothers. I haven't seen The Smashing Machine, but I have to imagine this is a better film. I just get the feeling that that's the case. I don't actually know for sure. I haven't seen it. But yeah, I liked it. Timothée Chalamet is amazing. I think in the awardsy type, in the awards discussion, I think he probably has the highest chance of winning anything. I am curious to see if some of his co-leads could get some recognition, because I think they all did amazing. Or at least, I guess they'd all be supporting, huh? But yeah, I really I enjoyed it all in all. It's not my favorite movie of the year, but it's also not my least favorite. It's definitely on the higher side, for sure. So, I'm curious, what did y'all think of Marty Supreme? Are you going to see it? If not, why? Yeah, I could see this doing well at awards. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'm in between a couple of bigger projects right now, so I thought this would be a fun sort of chiller video to do. Thanks for watching.